here in West Brattleboro. We welcome all who are worshiping with us this morning, and hope that you'll sign those few registers and pass them along. And also, if you think of someone in the congregation particularly who you don't see today, or who you know may be struggling with something, that you might fill out one of those Thinking of You cards and fill it out with their first and last name, put it in the offering plate, and Alice will see that they get that message.
Good morning. I'm Mick Durante from the Pastoral Counseling Center. I thought I'd take a few minutes today to stop shoveling my roof off to come down and speak to you. I know that's a big problem this winter with all the snow and ice that we've had. I've been at the Pastoral Counseling Center for 10 years. It'll be 10 years in May. The center was actually started by Judy and Ed Flowers in 1984. We had our 25th anniversary last spring. And the draw of the Pastoral Counseling Center for me, I'm a licensed clinical social worker. There are 3 other therapists there at the center. Was that I wanted to explore the spiritual connection that we all have and how it fits into mental health and dealing with loss, change, transition. So this has always been a big part of my work and the other therapists also. We take all types of insurance, but there's also a special fund that's set up so that people who don't have insurance can use our services. It's called the Client Fund, and that's one of the the fund that needs to be filled every year through donations, etc., from the community. Most of our folks have insurance. The folks that come in without insurance, kind of down and out folks, are people that just haven't, got insurance through their own volition. Sometimes we try to set them up through a Vermont plan, state plan, but they often don't have insurance right away, so this client fund takes care of that. At this center, we take care of folks who come in with issues anywhere from the winter blues, losing a pet, to major depression. My orientation is depression, mood disorders, bipolar disorder, etc. And we 3 other therapists have their own styles, but I think the central focus that we, and the gift that we provide to folks that come up to see us, and we're located at the Baptist Church in Brattleboro on Main Street, is that we all have what's called a psycho-spiritual approach to our work. And that means, simply that we try to uncover the spiritual connection to folks' higher power that sometimes lies dormant in people, sometimes it's at the surface and can be fostered and developed even further. So that's one of the things that makes us special. The Client Fund is another. We also are very connected with our folks, and we offer a holistic approach, mind, body, and spirit. So briefly, that's the Counseling Center, and I hope you give it consideration today. Thank you.
Today's scripture reading comes from the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 30, and it begins with verse 15. It can be found on page 180 of the Black Pew Bible. And I would just note that I was reading yesterday from the Daily Bible. I think it's from the New International Version. And these 6 verses, if I recall correctly, are referred to as, or titled as, Life and Death in Covenant. I have set before you today life and prosperity, death and adversity. If you obey the commandments of the Lord your God that I am commanding you today, by loving the Lord your God, walking in his ways, and observing his commandments, decrees, and ordinances, then you shall live and become numerous, and Lord your God will bless you in the land that you are entering to possess. But if your heart turns away and you do not hear, but are led astray to bow down to other good gods and serve them, I declare to you today that you shall perish. You shall not live long in the land that you are crossing the Jordan to enter and possess. I call heaven and earth to witness against you today that I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Choose life so that you and your descendants may live, loving the Lord your God, obeying him, and holding fast to him. For that means life to you and length of days, so that you may live in the land that the Lord swore to give to your ancestors, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. Here ends the reading. May God add his blessing to it.
And now may the words of my mouth, the meditations of all our hearts, be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, our strength and our salvation. Amen. So those of you who were here last week, remember that I started out talking about a seminary professor of mine whose favorite expression was, how odd of God to choose the Jews. So what I would say in preparation for today's scripture, as we look at what it may mean for us, is about that word choose the Jews. It was God's choice to choose the people of Israel. And in my preparations for today, I came across an interesting work called The Hasidic Masters. And what was written in this particular document was on the essence of choice. And it says the concept of choice is central in the belief and philosophy of the Jew. Two of Judaism's most basic principles revolve around choice. God's choice of Israel as his chosen people, and the free choice that has been granted to us. Most of you know that the other part of my workaday world is involved particularly in drug and alcohol rehabilitation, or from other addictive disorders like sex addiction, gambling, spending, whatever the case may be, eating disorders. And one of the things that I have said about to my clients over the years is that their recovery is about choice. If you think about a typical addict, any of you who know any addicts, and the statistics in our country are that 1 in every 4 people are affected by addiction. So chances are you know someone that's an addict. And the case here is that when folks are active in their addictive behaviors, they have no conception about choice. So one of the things that I used to do when I was a counselor in a rehab is that I used to have folks put on the board their entire drug history. Now, it was always rather interesting that as they would do this, we did it in group for a reason. Because the group, no one knows an addict like another addict, and the group would question the person putting things up on the board. So let's just say we're talking about someone who cocaine was their drug of choice and what got them into treatment. So people would ask them, well, what about your alcohol use? Well, yeah, like any other cocaine addict, I used alcohol to come down, but it wasn't really my drug. Well, what about pot? Well, I didn't put pot on there because the pot doesn't really matter, because I would only use pot if I were at a party and somebody passed a joint around, and of course I would take it. There's the element about choice. Someone would pass it around, and so of course I would take it. It would not occur to that individual that they had a choice about whether to take that joint and take a hit off of it or not. They just did it. And so what I would share with them is that recovery is about choices. You have a choice about everything in life. You have a choice about what you do. Now, where this became dramatically impressed upon me was before I ever got into working in the addictions field. It was in my very first church as a pastor. There was a family in that church. It was a wonderful family. And like this church, we didn't have a whole lot of children, but their children, who happened to be kind of that tween and teenage bracket, were very faithful and were always at church, even when their parents didn't come. The father was a traveling salesman, often was not home. So the family was left to fend for themselves with Mom, who was an active alcoholic. And there were a couple of times, especially at the kids' request, we did interventions on Mom. But Mom continued to drink. And so there was a time when I had to sit down with those 3 teenage children. We talked about the consequences of Mom continuing to drink. And the words that I gave them, which were very hard words for me as a pastor, was to say to these kids, you realize that your mom is choosing to kill herself. Because if she continues to drink, she will die. And indeed, she died.